Hello, and welcome to Overthinking Eurovision. I'm Matt Rather. When a country has a big Eurovision hit, sometimes that country picks a similar artist in the next few years. It's like if you're wearing a certain pair of underwear when your favorite team has an amazing come-from-behind victory. All of a sudden, that's your mandatory underwear for game day, even if it rides up in the crotch a little. Look at Cyprus. Historically, this was not a country known for its Hispanic vibes, but in 2018, Cyprus internally selected Fuego. Neither the singer nor the composers had Latin roots, but to paraphrase Ali McGraw, Eurovision means never having to say cultural appropriation. Fuego came in a strong second place, and the next year, the Cyprus Broadcasting Corporation decided that Greek women singing Latin songs was the brand now. And ironically, they called their 2019 song Replay. That song managed 13th place in the final. Not terrible, but not en fuego. In 2021, Cyprus tried to run the same play one more time with El Diablo. Why do I mention this? Because Finland also seems to have a type now. It's men with quirky, mustachioed alter egos singing songs about how hard they party. It's how I learned to fly. Let's go now! Windows95man sounds like some kind of superhero, albeit not one that's likely to sell a lot of lunchboxes. And like all superheroes, he has an origin story. In the early 2010s, Teemu Keistri was a visual artist who invented a moderately popular character named Ukli, which means old man. There were Ukli t-shirts, hats, mugs, animations, this car that got crushed, even a book of sketches published in 2016. Interestingly, the Goodreads page for the book notes, Teemu Keistri's mottos are no rules and why not? Both of these mottos will be relevant later in this video. So, in another dimension, Teemu just kept on selling t-shirts and running his gallery in Helsinki, which appears to be next to a very cool bar, by the way. But everything changed when his friend graduated with a degree in civil engineering. Man, if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that story, huh? To celebrate, Teemu made a funny video of himself in denim shorts and uploaded it to YouTube in January 2013. In an interview published in Finland's largest newspaper, Teemu explained, "Maybe the idea came from the fact that I have always been fascinated by the denim look in the action movies of my youth. We spent a lot of time thinking about this statement because we too spent our youths watching action movies. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis, all the greats. And we do not remember any of them wearing jeans like this. So we did a little digging to find out if there were any action movies of the 80s or the 90s that featured jean shorts, aka jorts. And we found only two. The first was Raw Justice from 1994, but the jorts were worn by Pamela Anderson, so that probably wasn't it. Give it go. Come on, give it go. But then there is Deadly Prey from 1987, and the jorts are right there on the poster. Deadly Prey is a very loose adaptation of the classic short story, The Most Dangerous Game. And it does indeed have the main character in jorts for almost the entire film. We couldn't figure out why the director would have done this to his leading man, and then we learned that the leading man was also the director's brother, and then it all made sense. This movie was clearly an elaborate prank designed to trick this guy into wearing jorts and then laughing at him every Thanksgiving. Nevertheless, it clearly had a big effect on Teemu, who never forgot these epic jorts. So the Finnish guy dancing video was made in January 2013. In August of that year, Teemu was trying to think of a memorable outfit to wear to Flow, a Helsinki music festival where he'd be selling his Ukli merchandise. That was the first time he appeared in his soon-to-be iconic Windows95 shirt, although notably not the jorts at this stage. According to a post on Facebook, I thought it was a fun idea to wear something totally stupid to stand out of the crowd and wake up people from this flow bubble. So here's some important context. Take a look at this Google Trends chart. 2013 was the height of the hipster bubble, and wearing ironic brand t-shirts is a very hipster thing to do. Now, during this time, Teemu had been picking up the occasional DJ gig as DJ Teemu Keistri, As far as we can tell, he just spin pretty normal club music. Then in December 2014, Teemu agreed to DJ an event for his friend, and he decided he needed a gimmick. So he combined the jorts from the Finnish guy dancing and the Windows 95 t-shirt from Flow and decided to call himself DJ Windows 95.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
But when he went on Facebook to set up a page, it turned out there already was a DJ Windows 95. You can actually still see that Facebook page. The last post is from November 2014, only a month before Teemu gave himself a similar name. This person is probably completely unaware that she turned Windows 95 boy into Windows 95 man. There's one clip of this first DJ Windows 95 man performance online, although I've seen Thomas Edison movies with better picture quality. But what this clip reveals is that Windows 95 man was still missing maybe the most important aspect of his persona. He had the name, he had the wardrobe, but he was still playing normal club music, not the vintage 90s cheese he would become famous for. The character's unique taste in music wasn't established until Flow 2015, when he was hired to DJ the Champagne Bar. And according to Teemu, it started out as an act of sabotage. I got a small fee and one drink ticket. It seemed like unreasonably bad compensation for playing records on the Sunday night of an event like Flow. So I decided to deliberately play the worst music possible, Crazy Frog and the like. The place was completely full. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the plot of The Producers, right? They put on a show designed to fail.
You found a flop.
A flop? That's putting it mildly. We found a disaster, catastrophe, and outrage.
And it is so bad that it becomes good in an ironic way.
Absolutely hysterical!
I thought I'd split my sides.
Or maybe in this case, the music was always good. It just was so cliche that no self-respecting trendy Flow Festival club kid would listen to it. The persona of DJ Windows 95 man gave both Teemu and his audience a green light to enjoy Crazy Frog in public. But here's why I think the story of him trying to tank the show is a little too cute to be true. Finland's love of 90s music is well documented. One of the country's biggest music festivals is Eurovision, held every summer to celebrate the best of 90s Eurodance. And that started back in 2013, so Teemu was definitely aware of it. Hey, let's take a look at who played Eurovision last year. Oh my goodness, it's erotic again. Surprise! Anyway, we think Teemu was kind of exaggerating when he said he was trying to chase people away with bad music. But there are a few clips of that Flow 2015 set, and Teemu was definitely dipping back into the 90s. That's the 1999 track Freestyler by the Finnish group Bombfunk MCs. I'll admit that I needed to ask the Discord to identify that one. But he plays another track that was burned into my memory from every dance party I went to in college. Judging from the clips on his Insta, Darude's Sandstorm became a sort of signature track for Windows 95 man, the purest expression of the music he represents. When we saw Windows 95 man spinning Sandstorm again and again, it made sense to us. Sandstorm has become a meme, a musical shorthand for a certain type of party during a certain era. But then we Googled it and remembered, Darude is Finnish. In fact, he was the Finnish Eurovision representative in 2019. Fun fact, the 2015 Flow Festival, where Teemu played the first real DJ Windows 95 man set, also featured one of his future Eurovision classmates. Ollie Alexander was there with his band Years and Years. So let's recap. The jorts appeared in January 2013, the shirt in August 2013, the DJ name in December 2014, and the 90s cheese in August 2015. By the way, the Eurovision.tv page says the DJ gig at Flow Festival happened in 2013, but it's wrong. And we're right. What I find interesting about this timeline is that we might assume that the DJ in a 90s outfit who plays 90s music was something that Teemu came up with all at once. But it actually took years for all the pieces to fall into place. When Teemu first put on that Windows 95 shirt, he wasn't thinking about music or even creating a fun character. He just wanted to stand out while he sold ukulele stuff. but he ended up as a Windows 95-themed DJ, and that brings with it all kinds of fascinating levels of meaning. So before we can understand Windows 95 Man, we need to talk about Windows 95. No, really. For those of you using a PC running Windows 11, you might think that Windows 95 is an operating system from the distant future. If you assume that Microsoft takes 5 years between major releases, Windows 95 would be expected to appear in the year 2441. Just for reference, Star Trek Picard is set in 2399. So Windows 95 would be an operating system that would make the computers on the Enterprise look like they were running MS-DOS. But would it surprise you to learn that Windows 95 is actually from the past?
Let me give you an idea. Give me an idea how powerful Windows 95 is. It is able to keep track of all of OJ's alibis at once. Pretty amazing stuff.
Windows 95, which came out in, get this, 1995, was a huge step forward for PCs. It introduced the Start button, the taskbar for easy switching between applications, and plug and play for peripherals, so you didn't need to install drivers every time you got a new mouse. Okay, cool, I guess. But you might be wondering why anyone would have a Windows 95 t-shirt. And the answer is there was a Windows 95 everything. Yes, this is a real picture of Windows 95 soda. The Windows 95 marketing campaign had a budget of over $200 million, which included paying the Rolling Stones to license the song Start Me Up. They even hired Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry to star in what can only be described as an informational sitcom.
So I could basically fall in this thing and it would get started?
Yeah, but don't, okay?
Oh, pretty.
Oh, and no messy DOS buildup.
What is this, a paper towel commercial?
From a distance of 30 years, it might feel like the joke of the Windows 95 marketing campaign was that Windows 95 was something that could never be cool, but Bill Gates wasted hundreds of millions of dollars trying.
And I'm going to take advantage of the Windows 95 interface as well as Ole 2 and just drag and drop it.
Ole 2, and that would be for our Spanish-speaking friends, the Ole 2, of course.
If that were true, wearing Windows 95 gear would be a way of telegraphing that your character is supposed to be a rube, someone who was taken in by a cringy marketing campaign that no smart or tasteful consumer would actually fall for. But the real joke is that the marketing campaign actually did work, and there was legitimate hype around Windows 95. Here's a front-page story from the New York Times about its release. People lined up to buy their copies at midnight like it was a Harry Potter book.
From Newfoundland to New York and New Zealand, millions of computer buffs swarmed into stores to buy the software package that's described as the dawn of a new era in personal computing.
So why is this important? Because wearing a Windows 95 t-shirt is different from wearing an Apple Newton t-shirt or a D&D t-shirt. Wait, only $7? Okay, I'm bookmarking that. Windows 95 was mainstream, and people were legitimately excited about it. I hesitate to say Windows 95 was cool exactly, but it's the closest to cool an operating system has ever come.
The store was packed, customers were excited, they were grabbing product, we did the countdown, they couldn't even wait, for us to count down and drop the balloons.
Windows 95 looked hopelessly nerdy, but in the end it won people over through sheer force of will. And that's exactly what Windows 95 Man is doing. For the first 5 years of Windows 95 Man's existence, he seemed content to just DJ company Christmas parties, weddings, and probably the pagan ceremonies for Midsummer.
Please contact me for more info.
But then, in 2019, Windows 95 Man released a short album of original music.
So that's the new Windows 95 interface. Simpler, far more intuitive.
These songs were mostly dance tracks and didn't have a lot of lyrics. In fact, his lead single, Yaksa Yaksa, had mainly one lyric, repeated a lot.
No rules!
He didn't bleep it out. That was us trying to make YouTube happy. So this is obviously interesting in light of his Eurovision track.
No rules!
It seems like both the 2019 track and the 2024 track are attempts to create a sort of theme song for his character. But back in 2019, almost no one cared. As you can see, none of the tracks on this EP have broken 10,000 views on YouTube almost 5 years later. It seemed like the world didn't want Windows 95 Man to produce original music. But there was one government agency that felt otherwise. So let's have a minute to talk about Finland's love affair with taxes. The Finnish tax rate is about 43%, as opposed to about 24% in the United States. But somehow, the Finns feel this is a completely fair arrangement. In fact, A 2007 survey revealed over 80% of Finns would pay more in taxes rather than see social services get cut back. In the meantime, Americans complain endlessly about their relatively low tax rate and would love to have their taxes cut, as long as the cuts didn't hurt them personally, because our social fabric is like frayed polyester. In America, working for the Internal Revenue Service is pretty much the least popular job there is. If your average Zoomer were given the choice between working for the IRS and punching Santa Claus in the face, they would ask, how hard a punch are we talking here? But the Finnish tax administration, known as Verohallinto, is actually a very cool place to work.
Moi, mie on Sointu ja mun mielestä verotuksen ei tarvi olla ollenkaan kuivaa.
It's so cool, in fact, that it has an amazing social media team to make taxes even more popular than they already are. On Giphy, Verohallinto has its own account filled with memes of Epic Tax Guy. Not only does the IRS not have a Giphy page, but if you search for IRS, most of what you see are expressions of absolute disdain. Why am I telling you this? Because in June 2021, Verohallinto uploaded a video called Epic Tax Party, a collaboration between their own Epic Tax Guy character and Windows95man.
Pay your tax and play some sex!
This is very hard for my American brain to process. I think it would be like if the IRS collaborated with Skrillex or something. We couldn't understand what Verohallinto was thinking here, and then a Finnish member of our Discord decided to just ask them. And Verohallinto sent us a 297-word email about Epic Tax Party. So here's the story. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs runs an ongoing campaign called This is Finland, in which they partner with other agencies to highlight the country's strengths. One of the themes for 2021 was taxation and social services. So Verohallinto got a grant to connect with a high-profile ad agency. And, I'm quoting from the email here, we made our own tax anthem to thank the world's most epic taxpayers. As for the choice of artist, Teemu was also an excellent fit for our experimental, bold, and self-ironic, humorous social media style. Fun fact, if you call Verohallinto for help with your taxes, the hold music is a lounge version of Epic Tax Party. I am deeply conflicted about how cool you guys are with taxes. Speaking as someone who wants to live in a functioning society, it is a beautiful thing. But speaking as an American, this is creeping me out. This is creepier than the stuff in Midsummer. And yes, I know Midsummer is about Sweden. I just don't know any Finnish horror movies. One sec. Come on, that can't be real, can it?
Dark floors.
So Teemu had dabbled in songwriting, but as far as we can tell, he's never been much of a singer or a rapper. Last year, he was the opening act for Karja after his triumphant Eurovision return, and he played straight DJ sets, no original music. So what made him think, correctly, that Finland was crying out for a Windows95man song? Well, according to an article from January, it wasn't actually his idea. During the Corona period, Teemu had no gigs. Jussi Roina, the CEO of the concert sales company All Day, had a lot of contact with Teemu at the time, and the idea of making his own song for Windows95man was born.
Mä olin yksi päivä siis suihkussa ja yhtäkkiä No Rules rupesi soimaan päässä ja se oli siinä sitten.
Now, I like No Rules, but I am not convinced it took 4 years to write. So let's think about why the team behind the song actually got off their butts and made it happen in 2024. First, Karja came very close to winning Eurovision in 2023. This was a huge source of national pride. Finland has always been known for rocking hard on the Eurovision stage. In fact, we did 4 different surveys to prove that last year. But more than ever, Karja's famous expression, "It's crazy, it's party," seemed to capture the soul of a nation.
It's crazy, it's party, it's Karja. Olkaa hyvät.
Now, zooming out a little, the 90s in general seem to be back in style. Zoomers are apparently embracing the fashion, but at Eurovision this year, we had My AI, Woman Show, and Dam Digga Da from Norway, We Will Rave from Austria, and Kaboom from Lithuania. But there was another thing that happened in the summer of 2023 that might be a coincidence, but seems worth mentioning.
Cyber system overload, everybody movement.
Planet of the Bass was uploaded to TikTok with opening text that read, "Every European dance song in the 1990s." It now has over 120 million views. The guy behind it is an American comedian, and you can totally take issue about whether this is an accurate or fair parody. But its viral success proves that 90s nostalgia runs deep. And it's easy to imagine Windows 95 Man, a guy who has spent a big chunk of his life channeling the 90s, seeing that view count and wondering why he didn't do it first. So the stage was set for a track that combined Karia's crazy party energy with 90s dance vibes. There was only one problem. Windows 95 Man couldn't really sing. Luckily, Jussi Roina knew someone who could. Henry Pispanen has one of the most famous voices in Finland, if you're a child or a parent.
Isä, meidän elokuvaa näytetään tosi siistissä maassa ja ajattelin...
Että valtaisin sen.
Onnenamuletti! 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 Upeat aktuaattorit, mistä löysit?
Haluaisitteko palata kotiin pienen mutkan kautta?
Chase from Paw Patrol, Bandit from Bluey, Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, but more relevantly, he's the lead singer of the indie band Pasa. So finally, what can we say about No Rules? Well, despite the name of this YouTube channel, we actually don't like overthinking things that aren't supposed to be that deep. Like, it's fun to talk about how The Boss Baby is actually a Marxist critique of capitalism, but we would never... Wait, what? There was an entire academic conference about The Boss Baby? 2 of them? Okay, that was a bad example. So I guess we can propose an interpretation here. The singer at first tells us he lives his life by a single rule, which is no rules. That paradox right off the bat suggests that his credo is going to be trickier than it seems. At first, the singer gleefully parades around in the nude, which we think might be a deliberate reference to Austin Powers. Austin Powers was one of the biggest franchises of the 90s, so it makes sense to reference it. But more importantly, Austin was also a party animal who was offset in time by 30 years, and he had a tendency to frolic around nude to show what a free spirit he was. But Windows 95 Man received some bad news. Apparently, there are rules, and I, for one, would love to see exactly the rule that the stage manager is pointing to here. The jorts, in a way, are a capitulation. Windows 95 Man is being forced to follow the rules, but it's portrayed as triumphant, somehow better than the nudity. No rules! In fact, the jorts are the key element to Windows 95 Man, even more key to his identity than the t-shirt. And this never would have happened if there hadn't been rules. Now, in a weird case of life-imitating art, the EBU announced in early March that Windows 95 Man could keep his name since Windows 95 isn't a protected trademark anymore, but that the shirt would have to go. But this didn't bother Teemu in the slightest. We are still in discussions about how to change the logo, but it will be a kind of censored version in the funniest way. I don't see it as a problem at all. And on March 15th, he unveiled his new shirt, which is a heavily pixelated version of the Windows logo. He also re-uploaded the video of his national final performance, but with the shirt pixelated. He left the underwear in glorious high definition, though. Just like being forced to put on the jorts within the performance, Windows 95 Man in real life used the rules as an invitation to improve his wardrobe. As one of the top comments on the Instagram post read, he had the opportunity to do the funniest thing, and he did it. According to Orson Welles, the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. And maybe that's the message here. We all have rules, and that's a good thing, because trying to navigate the rules while staying true to ourselves will lead us to our own personal jorts. Finally, and this time I actually do mean finally, we want to talk about the music video. The people on our Discord who grew up with Eurodance were seeing little Easter eggs all over the place. The screens at the beginning might be a reference to the Crazy Frog Axel F video. The dance moves seem heavily influenced by the Ketchup song. The shot of Windows 95 Man doing a split between 2 eagles seems like a reference to the Jean-Claude Van Damme epic Split commercial. And of course, Van Damme was the leading Euro action star of the 90s. And this shot of Henry singing through a ring light with a forest behind him seems like a copy of the E-Type Angels Crying video. Before we hit end task on Windows 95 Man, we want to talk about the J word. No, not jorts. A lot of people have been dismissing No Rules as a joke entry, to be filed away with Dustin the Turkey, We Are the Winners, and Sylvia Knight. It is true that Windows 95 Man is a funny character, and Teemu has even performed as a stand-up comedian.
This is about the real melancholy from Finland. Dancing without music.
But to us, the definition of a joke entry is that it has no greater meaning than making people laugh. No Rules is funny, but it's also a super important message for Teemu. It was on his Goodreads page in 2016. It was the subtitle of his first song in 2019. It is, no joke, how he lives his life.
Että jos tulee vaikea tilanne elämässä, niin sitten saada kuiskaa itsellesi. No rules, no rules.
The song is funny, but it's also completely sincere. So, Windows 95 Man, good luck bringing the Ushiri Festival to Malmö. They can take your shirt, but they'll never take your freedom. Your freedom to be heavily taxed. We'll see you next time. It's ironic that Finland, the birthplace of Linux, is also the birthplace of Windows 95 Man. Linus Torvalds must be seething somewhere.